Dr Zee, where we share everyday stories with you, everyday women. Are you ready to hear heart-to-heart key issues that we all face, no matter where we are in the world? So grab your cup of tea and let's welcome your host, author, international speaker, reinvention strategist, and woman that's full of faith in God and mankind, Dr. Zena Arinze.
Hello. Happy New Year again to those of you that I haven't spoken to, which is probably the whole world. Happy New Year. Welcome again to another episode, the first for this year actually, of A Cup of Tea. Yes, with me, Dr. Z. I hope you have your cups because I will pour some tea for you. I'm so excited. You know, January has gone so fast. And for those of you that don't know me personally, January is my birthday month, so I kind of take it really easy. And then suddenly I realized I've only got 11 months left. So it's like quick. This week, I've worked so hard this week, more than I've worked in the whole of January. So I've set the tone for the year, but I think it's time to get back into the swing of things. And my next special guest is just the right person to ginger you up, to give you things to think about. We're going to talk about some traumatic things as well. But in the main, it's going to be a fantastic episode where we are going to unpack why it's important to be a life thriver, which is what she is. And I was going to, the African in me was going to say thriver, but be a life thriver, although I'm English. But also to let people know that it doesn't really matter where you're beginning, how your beginning was. It doesn't even matter how your middle is. It's always about how you take whatever you've gone through to create beautiful moments, beautiful memories, and also how you're able to take control of your life and make the right decisions for you unapologetically. So this is what all this is about, and so much more. So let's just start again. Welcome to A Cup of Tea with me, Dr. Z, the Reinvention Queen. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my next guest. And for those of you that are regulars on the show, I always say this, I've got the wrong glasses on. And I think this is one of those moments again where I've got the wrong glasses on, but I'm going to try. Now, my next guest is the amazing, phenomenal Queen Victoria Awele Okocha. She is a multi-award-winning transformational life healing recovery coach, and you'll see why. She's a best-selling author. She's an inspirational speaker, a trainer, and she's the founder of the Spectacular Woman and the LifeWise Foundation for Teens. She's also the founder of Awele's Olive Tree Counseling and Training Center, and I'm really happy that she's actually on being able to tear herself away today, because I know that her evenings are normally full on. So I'm really grateful. In 2016, Victoria authored Unshakable You, a book on the journey of healing, self-discovery, resilience after domestic violence. Now, I know about this book because I happen to have been invited to write a chapter there, contribute a chapter there. So it was, an amazing honor on my part and a privilege. She was also awarded the Freedom for Women's Advocate Award in 2017 and was selected within the top 100 women in 2018 to receive the Star Award and the Megan Award for her contribution to humanity. She was also awarded the B Mogul winner 2018-2019 for influential, inspirational Black entrepreneurs in Britain today. In 2022, Victoria again was awarded the Baton Award for her service in education. Can you see how multi-talented this woman is? Teaching young people about healthy and safe relationships, so much needed today. In 2023, 2 years ago, she was awarded the GAB Award for outstanding contribution to the promotion of the positive image of Africa and Africans around the world. In 2023, she was also awarded the EPRA Award for Entrepreneurial and Leadership and was awarded the Best Transformational Life Coaching Award. Now, in 2020, and the reason why I'm reading this, because I just need you to understand to set the theme, because some of you are going to say, this lady, I can't really relate to her. She's got all. You will be able to relate. Like I said at the beginning, it's not how you started, it's what you've used with what what life has served at you, even if it was self-inflicted. Because I don't know, someone will be saying, well, you don't know my story, Dr. Zena. Just wait. In 2020, Victoria launched the Safely in Love SRE training program in the Houses of Parliament to promote healthy and safe relationships for young people in the UK. She coaches and mentors professionals and businesswomen to raise their expectations of themselves and shatter the glass ceiling of what others think they can achieve, and provide coaching and resources to enable them to become their personal and professional best. Recently, she also created 6 Steps Blueprint I Heal My Life coaching program to do exactly that for women. Now, I'm going to stop here because we're going to let her I'm going to unleash her onto you so that you know exactly what we're in for. So without further ado, however they say that, drum roll. I need a cup of tea. Actually, give me a second. I got a mug today, not my normal, not my normal dainty cup. Oh God, give me a second. Oh God, that's lovely. Oh, she's just, I can see her smiling in the green room, wondering what she let herself in for. Hello. Sorry to put you on the spot. The amazing, the phenomenal Victoria Okocha. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for actually gracing this. I am incredibly honored. I know that you are exceptionally busy, but I'm so glad that you've agreed to do this show. And for those of you that don't know, we are speaking about, this is episode 37, what we do for love. And many of you are thinking, okay, it's Valentine's month and all that. Just wait. So Victoria, how are you?
I am so happy to be here, Zena. Thank you so much. It's actually a pleasure. I feel honored to actually be speaking on your platform. And excuse me, because when you brought me in or out of the green room, I was also drinking my tea.
Oh.
So yes, I'm happy to be here, and thank you, and Happy New Year to everybody that's joined us this evening.
Great stuff. People can see that you're a super mom, you're an author, a coach, an educator, and a life thriver. And that's just some of the descriptors that I use for you, because I'm thinking that this really encapsulates who you are, especially the life thriver. So what we're going to do over the next few minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, I know we probably may go over a little bit, is that we're just going to talk a little bit about you and why, why, if I call you a life thriver, what does that mean to you? And also, for those of you that are just joining, please say where you're joining from. Hello, Fikile, I can see you. I know you're in South Africa. You're welcome to the show. For those of you that are listening, wherever you're listening from, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Instagram or on YouTube, just say where you are, what country, where you're from. You're welcome to the show. Now, Victoria, you're a life thriver, and I know your story, but the reason why I think it's important that we share this is that people always feel that their stories are so horrific that they can never lift their head. People feel that it's all right for other people to be successful, but what about me? No one knows my story. No one knows what I've gone through. So I'm going to start with your journey has been filled, it's filled, because obviously we're still alive, thank God, with incredible challenges and triumphs. You're a mom, you're a grandmom. Yeah, she's a grandmom, an incredible grandmom. And I want to sort of talk a little bit about your childhood first and the struggles that you faced growing up. Feel as you can share as much as you feel comfortable to share. And I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zena. Well, gosh, coming from an inner city background in terms of where I lived, experienced sexual abuse at the age of 12, uh, went into a relationship quite young as well, like, when I was 15, and, experienced teen dating violence at that age. And, it, my life, I would say, kind of spiraled. I had low confidence, low self-esteem. I was messing around at school. I wasn't rude to teachers, but I wasn't focused. I wasn't focused. And, in the end, they kicked me out. So, no, I wouldn't even say they kicked me out. I ended up leaving, and, so many things transpired in terms of, experiencing sexual abuse at a young age. That fed into the way I thought about myself, low confidence, low self-esteem, and then obviously getting into a relationship where I then experienced teen dating violence, and then becoming a single mum after 9 years of being in that relationship. And I always think back to when I came out of that relationship. My confidence and self-esteem was in the toilet. Like, I just felt so rubbish about myself. I didn't feel good about myself at all. And then it got to a point where I just didn't like how I felt. And I made a conscious decision that I'm not happy with how I see myself, how I feel about myself. And I wanted things to change for me. And so I embarked on a self-healing journey. But that wasn't until I met, I finally went back into education, and I met this amazing teacher by the name of Grace Gordon. And for some reason, she took me under her wing. She did things that teachers weren't supposed to really do. Like, she gave me her phone number. She said, call me at any time and so forth. I shared my story with her. And, she began to buy me books on personal development, and it was from there, she started asking me questions like, what's your purpose, Victoria? And I'm thinking to myself, what is she on about? What? I've never heard these kinds of concepts before, and I'm thinking, purpose? What is she talking about? And, from then on, it was, she was planting specific seeds in me that, one, made me to reflect on myself. And then secondly, to start thinking about who I am and what I wanted to do in life. And that's where my healing journey all began.
I like that. You just remind me of someone I interviewed a while back, Yvonne Michelle, last year, and I remember she talked just that part about who you meet on your journey. She had something similar where she was sexually abused as a young child, by a family member when she lost her mom before that, and then. But what was interesting, she went on not to do well in school. She was which looking at what happens around us now, we need to be very conscious that when we see a child acting out, it's not always because they are misbehaving. They're trying to get attention but sometimes they may not even talk about what's going on because they might feel dirty. They might feel it's their fault. I saw something recently, I think yesterday, on TikTok about a young woman that was talking about how her father, who is a pastor, continuously, recklessly, terribly, wickedly was raping her from this age of, I think it was 9 or 10. And how she was able to try and divorce her being a little girl, and like my dad's favorite person, and then and so these things happen. But what's interesting is who you meet on that journey. So you met Miss Gordon, and that changed the trajectory. Obviously, you had parents, and we're not going to blame your parents because we've had this discussion. Parents can only do what they can do. And so we talked about this when we were preparing for this, in the sense that You could be the best parent in the world by your standard, by your upbringing, by your culture, and all the things that you know. But things change by generation. So when I was growing up, if your mom said or your dad said stand, you stand. And so when you didn't stand, they wouldn't know how to cope with that. There will be the slaps, the straps, and all that, and then you leave home. And I know that's kind of your story. But now with my daughter, if I tell her to stand, well, she's not standing. But it's a different generation.
Yeah,
So you have, yeah. So
yeah.
I'll just touch on that a little bit, because there'll be some people that might be thinking, oh, maybe you didn't have parents. I want you to kind of just unpack that a little bit. You know.
No, understandable. Again, it was would I say, a so-called friend or relative of the family that I experienced the abuse from. But my parents were good. My mum was an amazing mother, and I'm not just saying that, and I think back to that time when it happened to me, how scared I felt when she asked me. I came to her and I said, look, so and so is coming into my room at night. And she said, really? Has he done anything to you? Has he touched you? And I just froze. And I said, no, but he had. But what my parents did that particular day, by the time I got back from school, I remember my dad was in the front room, and as an African parent, my dad was quite a traditional man. And I remember coming home from school and saying, oh, hi, Dad. And that so-called uncle was sitting next to him. And so, the fright of seeing him there was another kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was another kind of pain that I felt actually seeing him sitting there. And I remember my dad had the newspaper, and he said to me, okay, Vicky, go and change and come back, And so I went, took my school clothes off, because that's what you do, in our days. You come home from school, you take your school clothes off, and then, you sort yourself out. And I removed my school clothes, went back. And then he asked me, why is so-and-so coming into your room at night? And I said, no, he said, is it true that so-and-so is coming in? And I said, yes. And my dad then turned to him and said, why are you going into her room in the evening? And he lied, he said, oh, so-and-so is calling me to read story to them at night and so forth. And, because I shared a room with my younger sister at that time. And so he was saying that my younger sister was calling him to read a story, which wasn't true. We were reading stories all together as a family in the front room, but not singularly in the evening in our bedroom. So anyway, my dad was a very clued man anyway. And to be honest, there was two things that one thing that worried me that day, that scared me, that if I told my dad what really happened, I think my dad would have probably been arrested, because my dad would have done some damage, right? But my dad knew something, because my dad just said to me, okay, it's okay, Vicky, you can go. I went. I think I lied down for about maybe half an hour. By the time my sisters came back from school, the man was gone from the house. So my dad told him to pack out and go. So he left, So yeah, and for me, I think about, okay, I experienced that, when I was 12 years old, and I carried that pain, the shame, the burden, that trauma for a long time. And, it got to a point where I needed to release it. I needed to release it. I needed to talk about it. I needed to start that healing journey. And I never forget the day that I actually spoke about it. And that was to Grace, that particular teacher. I remember I broke down. I was crying like a baby. Sometimes, you know, when people experience trauma and they carry it for so long, I always say that if you don't deal with it, it's always going to come back to bite you in the bum. It
Yes,
comes back.
yes, yes,
Something will trigger you.
yes,
You may
yes,
watch something on TV.
yes,
Somebody may talk, share a story about
yes,
something. You may
yes,
see an image of something. There's things that will remind you, that will trigger
yes,
you,
yes,
right? And what your spirit is telling you is that you need to deal with it. But
yes,
the issue that what I find, and this is you know, things that lots of people do, they continue to bury it and suppress it, and they
exactly.
run away from dealing with the
Mm,
trigger. And I
yes,
think, you know, the only way you're going to start healing is when you start to deal with the triggers that come up for you. You may not have had sexually, it could have been anything else. You know, people
yes,
experience trauma in different ways. You know,
yes,
I give this analogy of, you know, somebody could have been locked in a room, or yeah, could have been locked in a room as a child with a bee, you know, a bee, and it was
oh, I don't
scary
like
for
these.
them,
I
and it
don't
was
like these.
traumatic for them,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So for them, that's trauma. You know, so there's different levels of trauma, and people experience it in different ways. Okay, so for me, I always think about, it's important for us to deal with the triggers, because
yes,
when these triggers come up,
yes,
the
yes,
spirit is forcing you to face
yes,
what you have
yes,
inside of you,
yes,
right? And when you face it, that aids your healing journey. I
yes,
see, I
yes,
see, you know, us humans like an onion, in terms of, there's various things that we've been through in life, and at different stages, we have the opportunity through our triggers to release one layer of that onion.
yes, yeah, absolutely,
Okay, to
absolutely,
release, yeah, to release one layer
absolutely,
of that, yes,
absolutely,
that's another layer that
absolutely,
we've dealt with,
absolutely,
that we've dealt with, and that
absolutely.
all supports your healing journey. I mean, as you know, Dr. Z, you know, healing isn't a quick fix.
No,
It's, you know, it's long term. There's things that you have to do on a daily basis. It's lifelong things that you have to
yes,
do to
yes,
get yourself to a place where you finally have peace. And
yes,
then obviously things that you need to do to maintain that peace in your life.
yes, yes,
So
yes, 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 yes. I
yeah.
love, I love that analogy. You know, for those of you that drive, thank you so much for that, Victoria. You know, I told you this about 5 years ago that you know I should be calling you Doctor Victoria. I think I forgot. I'm going to start calling. You know, you might remember that. But this woman is an incredible woman. I'm not just saying that because she's here. And I'm going to ask her some. Okay, let's put it this way. The title of this show today, the title of this episode, episode 30, is What You Do for Love. And so we're going to, you know, really delve into that. So Victoria shared her story in terms of when she got abused at 12 from a family member. And then she touched on a little bit about the different kind of, I mean, thank God for Miss Gordon, but she still kind of went off the rails. And, you know, you need to get her book, Unshakable You. You know, you need to get it. But just touch on that a little bit, because what we do for love, when you feel unloved, when you feel dirty, when you've lost your confidence, when you've lost your self in, you know, esteem, when you have no idea what your identity is, because as a child I can imagine, I want to tell my dad, but if I tell my dad, he's going to kill this man, so all of a sudden you're a protector. You are the person who has been, you know, being attacked, as it were. But you're like, I don't want my dad to kill this man, and maybe they might take my dad away from me. And you know, and then this man is like, but why couldn't my dad just have dealt with it without me having to tell him? Okay, so he knows, he's told him to go. So all that's going in you. And then obviously for men, especially for black men, when these kind of things, even when it happens to your wife, many men cannot cope with the fact that their wives, even in a marriage, maybe, you know, robbers have come to the house or something has happened. You see it on films, and the wife has got raped, and maybe the man was tied up and he hasn't been able to do anything. But
Yeah.
somehow it seems to affect lots of relationships, that they're not able, men are not able to deal with the fact that something they cherish. And I'm not trying to objectify ourselves as women, but something we, as a woman, a girl, a daughter, a wife, a sister, we're not able to, they're not able to cope. So in his head, he's probably felt, and I knew the man, bless his heart, lovely man, he's probably felt that he dealt with it, but he couldn't go more than what he did. That was what he could do. And then you, as a child, you'll have all kinds of mixed feelings about, so you start acting out. So you start looking for love in all the wrong places. And so you see where we're leading to. So we're talking about what we do for love. So talk a little bit about what you did for love in the relationship, the teen abusive relationship, the kind of excuses you were making, and all that, and the impact that your mom had, because your mom was amazing, absolutely amazing. And you need to get the book, because we're not gonna. You need to get the book. You need to get the book, and you need to get the book, Unshakable You. You need to get the book. But just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I wanna kind of go back in relation to my dad, and I think that my dad protected me. The decision that he made to take the man out of the house was his way of protecting me. You hear
Absolutely.
so many horror stories. You hear so many horror stories of children going to their parents and saying, this is what's happened. This person has done this to me, and
And I don't
parents
believe.
will shun the children,
Yes, yes.
shun the children away, and put the blame all on the children. So so for me, I think about that was his way of protecting us by getting him out of the house. And so I feel good about that. And I never ever felt anything, I never ever felt like, oh, my dad should have did this, or he should have beat him. No, I didn't. I didn't think that at all. But in terms of what we do for love, and you heard me talk about going into a relationship, because when people experience trauma at such a young age, there is that confusion, Zena. You
Yes,
don't know who you
yes,
are.
yes.
You act up in different ways, and you not that you mean to do it. And I think as a child, sometimes, we don't understand ourselves. We don't understand who we are. Sometimes it's a cry for help. Sometimes it's the rebellion, so we just have this don't care attitude. We want to do what we do. And sometimes we don't even pinpoint where the root of that issue has come from. We don't pinpoint it.
Yes,
We're just
yes,
acting out.
yes,
Okay. And
absolutely.
so what I tend to find, and through my own experiences, is that you're acting out, you're doing all of these things, but you're inside of you don't feel good. You don't feel
Mm,
good. You
mm,
don't feel
mm,
happy inside.
mm, mm,
Your self-worth
mm,
is gone to pot. Self-esteem
mm.
is pretty low. And as much as I looked quite glamorous as a young teenager,
You
and this
still
is
look
another
glamorous. You still look glamorous now as a grandma.
but no, but I think about this now, and I think about a lot of individuals who, I saw a clip the other day of this man talking about women that have been in women that are in domestic violence relationships, and they're putting on makeup and dressing up nicely, and nobody knows what they're going through. You understand? Because it's all a mask.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
and I
yes,
find
yes.
that this is how women can mask themselves inside, by putting, having this facade of everything is okay on the outside, but inside it's tearing them apart. And that inner conflict in terms of how they feel about themselves, how they feel about what's going on, scared to talk about it, scared to share it, shame around it for so many different reasons. And then this, I think about how this impacts us mentally, the mental
Mm,
emotional well-being.
mm, mm,
You heard me say, if these things are not dealt with, if you don't take the time to reflect and look, seek help, counseling or coaching, it comes out sideways. And
it
this is
really
where
can.
we see people with depression, we
Really
see people
can.
with anger issues, we see people that are alcoholics, drug, substance abuse,
Yes.
depression,
Yes.
anxiety, panic
Yes.
attacks, all
Yes.
of these things
Yes.
that
Yes.
affect us,
Yes.
affect individuals that have been through trauma, but are so scared to deal
Yes.
with it.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
first of all, I want to say, in terms of what we do for love, I think the first and foremost thing is to identify and to be aware that you are your first love. You should be your first love.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I
You
love
should be your first love. I did a post
that.
some time ago where I talked about I'm getting married. Yeah, I'm getting married again, and this time it's so much different. The love that I'm getting, the attention, the self-care. And I was talking about myself. I was talking about me marrying myself, falling in love with me again.
I'm just
Because
putting
all
that
of
so that
these
people can see that.
things,
Yeah.
yeah, all of these things help us to create that happiness, to create that peace that we need, because nobody can give it to us.
Yes.
Nobody can create peace
Yes.
for
Yes.
us. We create that.
Yes. Yes.
We are the
Yes.
author
Yes.
of our stories.
Yes.
We create the stories that we want. And
Yes.
again, with healing and trauma, we create those stories. We have to remember that these things that happen to us, they're just events, part of an event in our lives, but it doesn't
Absolutely.
define who we are.
No, it's a date
Because
stamp. Yeah.
yes, because if I
Absolutely.
allowed those issues or those experiences that I had of sexual abuse and domestic violence, if I allowed that to define who I was, I would not be here today. I would not have
Absolutely.
I would not be doing all the work that I'm doing. But I made a conscious decision to start my healing journey. Because what happens when you start to heal, you get clarity about who you are.
Yes, 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 yes. I
You
love that.
know?
I love that.
Yes.
No, thank you so much. I love that so much, and I'm sure that for those of you that are listening, whether you're listening right now or you're listening on the replay, do you want a top up? You want a top up? You
Thank
know,
you.
for those listening on the replay or listening right now live, really, you cannot give someone else, it could be whether a spouse, a boyfriend, a partner, a sibling, you can't give them that responsibility to make you happy. So for those of you that are dating right now or planning to date and you're planning to get into a new relationship, me, I'm not dating yet, but me, I'm planning to get into a new relationship, you have to be complete in yourself. This thing that we see in the films, oh, you finish my words, you complete me. Forget that. You need to complete yourself. You can't give anyone that responsibility. It's yours,
Yeah.
And we people, human beings tend to look for love. We do all sorts of things for love, and then we don't get what we're expecting in return. Like you rightly said, if you're empty inside, if there's unresolved trauma, or if you just don't even know how to love, or perhaps, in your parents, or people that that you're close to, maybe the way that their relationship was, you didn't know any better and you thought that is how it should be. There's so many different intersectionalities about this, but so that we don't go too far into that, I might come back to that. I just want to touch, because I'm going to talk about your work with marginalized teens in the Black community in a minute. You're currently in Nigeria, and we will talk about why you're in Nigeria, because obviously it's all about what we do for love. That's coming up.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on, as a teen parent, because obviously you were a teen parent. You also got married. You got grandchildren or grandchild, and also,
Yes.
grandchild. Not give you more than you have in your grandchild and all that. And so there are different aspects, but all this is all part of who you are, and has made you, the amazing therapist that you are, has made you award-winning all around the world for the work that you do with young people, especially for those of you in the UK. We know that there are so many issues in the Black community. So many issues. We've got knife crime, we've got teenage, pregnancy, that's always been there, but it's not even teenage, it's even younger than teenage. We've got all sorts of things where money, we've got social media where you want to be what you see online. There's so many different things, so many things to unpack. And I know that maybe as a young person in particularly, there are so many decisions that you have to make that you're not even old enough or
Yeah,
mature enough or ready enough. But like you rightly said, sometimes there's rebellion and we all rebel, and you're like, well, why would my mom tell me this? Why would my dad? They're old fashioned. They don't know, and all that. So I want to just come to, as a teen parent, you had to make some really, really tough decisions earlier on. Some, were not, maybe may not have been the right choices, and some were. So I just want to touch on that a little bit. And how did love play a role in that, for your daughter at the time? Your
yeah,
baby daughter, yeah.
yeah. Well, I think for me, it was more about the decisions that I make now, or the decisions that okay. So I'll use this is how I felt. I felt at that time that the decisions that I'm making now are going to help me in the future. So I knew that I couldn't stay in that abusive relationship anymore because it was going to impact my daughter even more.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, when we talk about trauma and we talk about domestic violence, and there's children in the household that are seeing things, they are
Yeah.
also being traumatized.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I
Absolutely.
didn't want that for my
Yes.
child, and so for me it was important to remove myself. Yeah, it was important for me to remove myself, and I'm so glad that I did, because for me it was about how much more can I invest in my child or my children, because I want them to be better than me. I want them to achieve more than me. As a
Mm,
parent, this is what we want. So
mm,
therefore, sometimes we have to make sacrifices. Yeah, we have to make sacrifices and do things that are going to set up the next generation. And this kind of comes back to the work that I do in the LiveWise Foundation. And this is why I established the LiveWise Foundation, which is a non-for-profit organization that supports young people around teen dating violence, anger management, and mentorship. Because obviously, as a teen person that experienced teen dating violence, I wanted to give young people a platform and a
mm.
safe space where
Yeah.
they are able to share what they are experiencing. And it blew my mind when I started this work, because just the things that young people will tell me that's happening in school, less
Yeah.
more stuff that
Yeah.
may have gone on at home, things that are
Yeah.
happening in school.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this,
Yes.
the work that I've been doing has been since 2016, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
2016.
Hello. 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 Um.
Walking up the stairs and boys are oops,
Okay.
connection lost.
Yes.
Can
I
you
think.
hear?
Yeah. I can hear you now. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I think your earphones. Your earphone. Okay.
to just hear, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. To just hear, some of the comments that young people share with me in terms of what they go through in school. And when I ask, have you told the teachers, or do you tell your parents? And they say, oh, teachers are not going to do anything about it because it's common, it's normal.
Mm,
This type of behavior has become so normalized in
mm,
schools
mm.
that girls that may be experiencing things like this, and I'm not saying that it's only girls, boys may experience things as well, but
Yes.
because I do a lot of work with women and girls, I speak on that.
Yes.
So you hear young girls saying things like, oh, there's no point in saying anything because nothing's going to be done about it. So they palm it off like it's nothing. They may go to
Mm,
their friends and laugh, oh, what's his name did this to me, like it's nothing. But the work that I do with them that talks about, you know, um, abusive behavior, sexual consent, and rape.
yes. No
Um,
means no. No means
exactly,
no.
exactly.
Mm,
Healthy, unhealthy relationships, controlling relationships, all of these things, when they, and much more, but when they begin to learn about these types of issues, they now become aware of, the things that are happening to them, and are more able to use their voice to say no, to
yeah.
tell a parent, to tell a teacher, and
Yeah.
to make better choices.
Yeah.
Because especially when we're talking about what a healthy relationship is, what an unhealthy, toxic relationship. And again, when we talk about toxic relationships, healthy, unhealthy relationships, I'm not just talking about partner relationships, because you can also have toxic relationships at work. You can have
Yes,
toxic relationships with your
absolutely.
friends.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it filters out in all areas of your life, and so it brings that awareness to young people early on. Like, I think when I was going through what I was going through, I wish I had that. I wish when I was at school, I had people coming in, talking about healthy relationships, what it looks like.
Boundaries and stuff.
Exactly. So all of these things, I just decided it's going to be part of my mission to try and safeguard as much young people as I can, to bring awareness, to educate, to empower them, to use their voice, and to break a cycle. Because for young people, they could be the one that's breaking that cycle in their family
Absolutely.
lineage.
Absolutely.
So for
Absolutely.
me, that's what it's all about.
It's funny you should say that, because we know hurting people hurt people. I know years ago, and this is here in the UK, years ago, there was a program, not related to this, but just to buttress the fact, buttress the point, where I think it was called Benefit Street or something, and where they had a street somewhere in the north of England, somewhere where they had generations of people that were on benefits. So that had never worked. So they had great granddad, grandma, mother, child, and so this is all they know. And it's the same thing with, yes, it's a cycle. And it's the same thing. And you were talking about normalizing that. When we normalize things, we all become desensitized. Oh, that's how it happens. You talk to your friends. Well, he touched me like this, or he did. Oh yeah, forget it. He did.
That's right.
And it's similar to sometimes in the African continent, probably in the developing world. When we're talking about domestic abuse, it's a little bit different. And we were talking about this the other day, that sometimes when maybe a woman might complain to her mom or her mother-in-law, and I even have a friend here who's Indian descent, and her husband was abusive, and when she complained, her mom-in-law and her mom said, well, why are you complaining? We all go through this, and it's and so so that cycle, don't talk about and so sometimes you have here in the UK, maybe a teenage mom went through it, her daughter will go through it, her grand, and so we have to break the cycle. You're absolutely, and don't normalize what isn't normal. It is not a normal way. It's not something that we need to accept. No means no. And even if it's happened to you, like you rightly said, you think about your children, think about how, the kind of messages that you're giving to them when they're growing up, because, children are like, they are like sponges, and they're not like us. They're faster, they're much more smarter. What an 8-year-old knows, when I was like 22, I didn't know. Things are different. Things are different. You've got the internet, so it's really important. And I like the fact that you give them a space to share their experiences, talk, and for them to know they are not alone. Because abuse, and that's not even whether it's, like you said, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at home by your parents, whether you're being abused by your child, whatever it is, it's very isolating. You feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel, did I bring it on myself? You feel like a victim. And so what happens is that when you're isolated, you think it's just happening to you. But when there's a safe space for you to be able to share this, you realize I'm not alone. Like we like to say, Yana, you're not alone. So that's the work you do is absolutely phenomenal. Well, well done. But my thoughts about this. Now I'm gonna, and I know time really goes fast when you're having fun. But I'm gonna ask you this question because I really want to, because obviously you can hear her speaking. She's obviously British, but she lives in Nigeria at the moment. And like I like to say, and I think Victoria shares this, love is, not just, it's often seen as a feeling, I feel love, I'm in love and all that. but love is also an action. We do things what we do for love. We do things for love. You know, you buy presents for your children or your husband or your friends or whatever because you love them. You do things. Sometimes you don't have the right boundaries in place because you feel I'm doing this because I love this person, or we do all sorts of things for love. Something's really, really amazing, something's not as great, and then we
Yeah.
feel resentment and all that. But I want you to expand a little bit upon um, why, how love has driven you to break cycles and make life changing decisions, both for
Mm.
you and for the people that you love. And
Yeah.
and that hopefully will lead us into why you're in Nigeria now.
Okay. I was just going to go straight to it.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
um,
Anyhow you like, darling. Anyhow,
yes, yes, yes.
I'm just a
So,
facilitator, so it's all good.
yeah, so I think, for me, as a mother, you want the best for your children. That's something that I've said earlier on, and you
Mm,
want to give them the best. And I want my children to be better than me. I want my children to achieve more than me and be
mm,
greater than me.
mm,
And so I think as a parent, we have to have that awareness in terms of understanding our children or being aware of what's going on in their lives. Very, very important, because
yeah,
especially in the UK, there's lots of, single mums out there. And this is me not, condemning them, because I am a single mum, but I remember, I mean, as a single mum, it can be difficult. And, your first initial thought is to make sure that you've got a roof over your children's head and that you
yes,
can provide
yes,
food for them. And
yes,
that's, for some parents, that's the most essential thing that they feel that they need to provide. And some
mm,
parents don't have the time. Some
yes,
parents could be working
yes,
long hours, shift
yes,
work. I
yes,
remember my days of doing shift work and all of that,
yes,
because
yes,
you have to put bread on the table.
yes,
So
yes,
I understand all of that, and I know it's challenging for some single mums,
yes,
but then, we have to have, I think, as parents and as mums, we have to have that awareness in terms of what what's going on in our children's lives. How are they
yes,
doing at school? What
yes,
type of friends do they
yes,
have? I know
yes,
for
yes,
me, when she's my eldest now, but when she was younger and she wanted to go to her friend's house, I was like, what's the parents' numbers? I would want to
mm,
connect with the parents to
yes.
see what they were like. No one
Or you ain't,
told me this
or you ain't going nowhere. Absolutely, I did the
these are the
same thing.
things. This is it. No, you can't just go just like that. No,
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 no, no,
no.
no,
Who
no,
are
no,
the
no.
parents? What
What are
is
the
their
people?
background? What are they?
Yes,
What are
yes.
they
How
about?
many
These
boys are in that house?
You see, these are the things. These are the things that we need to be aware of,
Yes, yes.
and especially in this day and age, you
Mm,
just can't allow your children to just be doing their own thing. You
mm,
have to. One thing I would say about Olivia's dad, he makes me laugh sometimes because he would say, "I am the policeman of you." He said, "I am policing you." So any
yes,
little thing he's watching, he'll check her school bag and all sorts of things you know and he's a very good dad in that respect. So but I think as parents we need to be more tuned in to our
yes,
children,
yes, yes,
when they
yes,
come
yes.
home from school. And again, I talked about parents working long hours and not necessarily having the time. Not that they don't want to, it's just that time. They do
Mm,
all of these long hours. By the time they get home, they're tired.
I'm
They're
tired.
tired.
Yes,
They sleep to go again the
yes,
next day
yes.
you know but we need to find time, even if it's like 5-10 minutes over breakfast or just
Mm,
before you go to bed, to check in with
mm,
your children. How was school? What's
mm,
going on with how is your friends and whatnot? How's
mm,
everything? Because
mm.
I believe that, especially for mothers, we are the first teachers of our children.
Yes, yes.
And statistics show, and even research has shown, that the relationship that a mother has with her child from childhood, from toddler to, um, adolescence, as a young adult, right?
Yes.
That will determine the type of relationships they form as they get older.
Yes, absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
relationship you
Absolutely.
have with your mother, especially
Yes.
your mother.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
you have a
Yes.
good relationship with your mother as a child, I would say as a mother, if you have a good relationship with your children from young,
Mm.
they will begin to form positive relationships in the
Yes.
future with
Yes.
other people, whether it's
Yes.
partner relationship, girlfriend
Absolutely.
relationship, whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
So these
Absolutely.
things count. Okay. But to kind of go back a bit in terms of, having that awareness, checking in, finding out how school is going. I know
Mm.
for some parents, again, time, and again, sometimes parents feel like it's the school's job to to make sure that their children are doing well. No, as parents, it's our job.
Yes.
They came
Yes.
from us. It's
Yes.
our job
Yes.
to make
Yes.
sure that our children are doing well at school. So even if it
Yes.
means that you're checking in with the school and things like that. But anyway, for me, I didn't feel that my daughter was getting the best in the school that she was in. And so I decided to leave the UK and come to Nigeria, where I knew that she will use her full potential here.
Yes.
And and do I want to bash the education system? I can. I would say to an extent, when I was a teen, the education system failed me a little bit, but I then took it upon myself to go back in and work hard for myself.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so I took that responsibility. And so I think as parents, we need to have more awareness around, what's happening in our children's lives, checking in with them and looking at what's working and what's not working, and then
Yes.
making decisions based on what's not working to
Yes.
improve their lives, because the children
Yes.
are our future.
Yes.
And if you want
Yes.
your children to be better than you, then you've got to do those sacrifices and
Absolutely.
make those
Absolutely.
sacrifices to put things in place,
Yes.
you know.
You know what I like about this a lot is that there are many people, we talk about shipped. Now, I was a shipped child, and it was a but I went with just like you. We went as a family with my parents. We were born in England, went to school, and then suddenly we knew we were going. So we're going back to Nigeria, and we went. I'd never lived there, and I lived there, and it was initially it was very, very challenging because I'd never lived in Nigeria before. I wasn't used to it. I was English, the way I spoke and everything, and the culture. The culture is very respectful. You don't answer back, and I was doing all the answer back, so I was getting lots of licks and stuff like that. And then I was in boarding school and all that. But it was one of the best decisions that my parents made for us. Now, I always said, if I was going to do that for my children, I would do exactly what you did. I would go with them. Now, one of the challenges we have, and lots of parents do that, whether it's from Ghana, from Jamaica, it didn't matter, Trinidad, Nigeria, where it is, lots of India, Asia, lots of um, from the developing world in the diaspora, when they see their children behaving in a particular way or they think the education is not, they make the decisions that you have made. But where sometimes there are errors is where you make the decision and you send them by themselves. And I'm not judging anyone because you do what you need to do. But there was something recent which is because another thing is that here in the UK the culture doesn't understand our culture. And so there was a story late last year where a boy, probably 12, 13, I can't remember how old he was, his parents, mom and dad, felt that the education wasn't suiting him, not even just the education, the behavior. And they knew that, the chances of him being, lying dead on the floor
Yeah.
very, very, was in gangs. They couldn't really pinpoint it, but they could see that he was having money that it wasn't from them. And they knew that something was, and they spoke to social service. They tried their best, and no one was really listening. Not really stretched resources and all that, and so they made a decision to send the boy home, to Nigeria. Obviously, he's like I said, if you're 8 years old, you knew more than what I knew at 22. So this boy is about 12, 13, 14. He managed to speak to some lawyer here and everything, and he was trying to sue the parents, and that they dealt with his fundamental human rights, and and all over social media there was an uproar. Half of the people, especially Caucasians, say, "How could they do that? How dare?" But lots of people who were, black or Asian and understood the nuances behind this, they said, no, this was the right decision. You can take away his fundamental human rights. At least he's alive. He's alive. And so,
Yeah.
and I know many parents who have done this. Some people will stay back in England or in America, wherever they are, because they need to work for the money for the schools that they've put them in.
Yeah.
But it's also about safety and safeguarding. If you're listening right now and you have to make this decision for whatever reason, please be careful in terms of who is looking after this child. Don't just leave it with your grandmother who is 90 years old, because she's not going to be able to, whatever, or like Victoria, you make a sacrifice and just get up and go. I can't make that decision for you. But what I am saying is that when you allow love, real love, you will do the right things, not just for yourself, for your children, for your generation, and for anyone else. So I really, really doff my hat to you. Last question is that you're a life thriver. Tell us, what does that mean to you?
It means to me that nothing keeps me down. And through all of the past pain, the trauma that I had experienced, I've been able to live on purpose and continue and to thrive. So that's what a life thriver means to me. I mentioned earlier on that your past does not define you, and understanding that, there's going to be, events in your life that you feel you cannot come through this. But understand that once you recognize that you are the author of your life, you are the one that writes the story or rewrites the story, you can become anything that you wish to become in this life. So that's what thriving means to me, being a life thriver, that I just continue to get up and keep going.
I like
and keep doing the things that I feel are needed.
I love it. I love it.
In this world. Yeah.
I love it. I've just put some of
I
your
think these things are needed.
put some of your sound bites. Live on purpose, for purpose. You are your first love. If there's any, just before we wrap up, if there's any questions, feel free, wherever you're listening from, if you have a question, you can put that in the chat. In the meantime, where can people reach you? Because obviously you have so much to. I know you're a counselor. I know that you train counselors as well. I know that you are an incredibly gifted woman. I know that you do healing work for those that have trauma. You do so much for humanity. And I for one, I'm exceptionally blessed to know you, and I'm always amazed when you're telling me you're doing this and you're doing that. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your. It's not easy to unpeel our onions, in an atmosphere where people hear and judge. We say we listen, but we don't judge. But when you're able to forget about any kind of judgment and just speak your truth, because you know that you have a calling, you know that your life is not about you. Your life is about making sure that as many people as possible, people that you may never meet, you will never even see, will be able to take some sort of strength, learning, teaching, self-belief, whatever it is that they need from you showing up. That is an amazing feat. Amazing. Now, as we round up, if you had to give 3 words of guidance, advice, suggestions for people, what will they be?
Okay. So first of all, if people want to reach me, you can reach me on Facebook. It's Victoria Awele Okocha. I'm also on Instagram, Victoria Okocha 1. So that's those are my social media handles. In terms of counseling or coaching support or one-to-one counseling, you can also email me at Awele's Olive Tree CAT at gmail.com. That's Awele's Olive Tree CAT at gmail.com. So in terms of how I feel people can move on, is that what you've asked me, Zena?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. Sorry, I was busy writing quickly, saying
Need
on
to
Insta.
do.
Yes,
Okay.
just 3 tips or 3, yeah.
3 tips. Okay.
Yeah.
I think first of all, we need to do more reflection, more self-reflection. And that self-reflection can be like early in the morning or late at night, just check in with yourself. And, ask yourself, is there anything that you're holding on to? Is there anything you're holding on to? That's one. Is there patterns emerging in my life that have been emerging for years and years and years that impact me negatively? That's number 2. So the first one is to reflect and think about, is there anything else I'm holding on to? Is there anything I'm holding on to? Secondly, to God, I forgot what I said now.
You said patterns.
Yes. Is there patterns? Are there
Yes.
things in my life, patterns that are emerging that impact me negatively? So what do I mean by that? So, okay, an example could be, if somebody maybe says something, calls you out on something, may not even be negative per se. Do you always get defensive? Is it difficult for you to listen to constructive feedback? Do you take that in the wrong way? Yeah, so that's a negative pattern. That's a pattern that's impacting you negatively because of the way you react. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, I would say, would be to start loving yourself more. There's so many tips. I was just thinking.
I know.
There's a few things coming out, and I had to start
That's why I
thinking
gave
about.
you 3. That's why I gave you 3, because I know if I leave you'll give us like 15. If you get to work with Victoria, she over delivers. She will over pump you with stuff, content, things that you can take and live a better life. So that's why I gave her only 3, because I know what she's like. So
Yeah. Okay. So the last one I would say would be to journal. Start journaling. Yes.
Journaling. Right. So we have journaling. Everyone's going to know whether I can spell or not. Live. Right. So you've got her 3 tips. She's had self-reflection. So it's about being self-aware, not being defensive. Really own your issues. Own your issues. What am I holding on to? What am I holding on to from my past? My present? What am I holding on to? Self-reflection. Other people might tell you, but you need to be able to recognize your blind spots. Number 2, identify your emerging negative patterns in your life. This is not from me. This is from Victoria. Identify. This means that you don't just self-reflect. You need to be honest with yourself. You need to tell yourself the truth. You can lie to everyone. You can wear your MAC, your makeup. You can lie, I'm fine. But don't lie to yourself. Identify negative emerging patterns. And if you can't deal with it, look for someone like Victoria. In fact, don't look for someone. Go to Victoria. Let her work with you. Identify those negative patterns that are emerging, or even patterns that are not really serving you anymore for the stage of life that you're in. And then the last one, I love that one because I'm a journaler. Journal. Get a diary, get a piece of paper, whatever it is. You can journal in your phone. I just want to share this. My mum was a journaler. My mum was a journaler. When my mum died last year, and I was looking at all her journals, she wrote right up until the 9th of January in her journal, what she did, what she ate, who she spoke to on the phone. She wrote, "Oh, called Zena. I called Zena, wished her happy birthday." She still has that blonde hair. It's in her journal. So and she died when she was 86. So you're never too young or too old to journal. And it doesn't have to be in perfect English or French or Latin or whatever it is that you speak. It just needs to be something that you can understand, and it helps to give you the release. And I'm going to stop now. Last word. I'm going to let you have the last word, and we need to come out. Oh, Lord, I don't want to stop. I need to bring you back. I'm going to say it live. I'm bringing you back. You can't say no. You can't say no. Live.
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to say one thing about journaling, which is when we journal, journaling is so powerful. Some people really don't understand the essence and how powerful journaling is. What you're doing when you're journaling, you're actually bringing out those emotions from inside of you and transferring them onto a piece of paper. So you are bringing something out of you, which is also a form of healing. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about journaling.
Thank you.
So again, if anybody is, if any of this resonated with any of you in terms of wanting to start that healing journey, then by all means, feel free to contact me on those social handle medias.
And I'll make sure that I'll share them as well into all the places possible. But you can just look up her name. You'll see her everywhere on Instagram and on Facebook, or you can email her. Thank you so much, Victoria. You have been an absolute star. And like I said, I am going to bring you back. So thank you so much.
No questions. Nobody's asked any questions.
No, I think they're all being quiet. But trust me, they're going to send questions. They always do, and I'll send them to you.
Really? Okay, that'd be good.
Thanks for listening to A Cup of Tea with Dr. Z, your reinvention queen.
Thank you so much,
We
Zena.
hope you've been motivated and inspired to go out there and conquer any obstacles and issues you may face. You can find Dr. Zena on all social platforms. Until next time, remember, you're not alone.